All right, welcome into the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. A big win over the Blues. Are they going to be able to salvage this homestand? We've got a Winnipeg preview coming your way, and St. Louis Keller rides again. Tom Callahan, Robin Leaño, the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast starts right now.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in once again, everybody. It's time for the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm former NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robin Leaño. We're going to look over our shoulder at the Blues game, look ahead to the Jets game, talk about what's going on right now with this Winnipeg Hockey Club, or with the Utah Hockey Club as they prepare to face Winnipeg, Robin, because there is a lot going on with this team. We've got some injury updates and some guys heating up, some guys not so much. But, I mean, a lot of it to encapsulate, and it's got to start with that big win over the Blues.
It does start at that big win over the Blues, and it makes me feel good. I feel like, Tom, and you brought this point home more than I did, and talked about how important this St. Louis Blues game was for the Utah Hockey Club. You're talking about how you're circling this game on your calendar because these are two teams that are at similar positions in the standings. So those, no matter what, those extra points, the extra 2 points, whatever you can get, means so much more, and they were able to do that.
It was a huge. They look like they're shot out of a cannon. Great start to the game, and they carried it through. We're gonna take a look back at the stats, the notes in that one, and one guy in particular who had a massive game, as he seems to, against his hometown club. The show is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Robin, as I take a look at the stat sheet for this St. Louis game, a couple of things jump out at me. Actually, quite a few things jump out at me. It was a 4-2 victory on Saturday night. Number one, 11-131 at Delta Center. Great to see that number staying pretty much the same and being so pumped up. But let me throw a few things at you, Robin. First of all, the first period shots, 17-6 in favor of Utah Hockey Club. St. Louis scored first, and they scored on their first shot, 2:05 into the game. And you could have given it a little bit of an eye roll and said, oh, here we go. But then Utah comes back with the next three in the first period. A power play goal by Kesselring, then Schmaltz and Keller. Keller is in on all of those. Cooley is in on two of those. John Marino gets an assist, so he's kind of getting involved with the offense there as well. And I think that first period, to me, shows me that this Utah Hockey Club, for all the inconsistency, for all the ups and downs, when they put the hammer down, they can play some really good hockey.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like that's the point we've been trying to make here. And I feel like it goes a lot to me, Tom. I feel like that really gives the story of, is this team going to have the confidence going into the rest of the game? Right? I feel like that's a huge thing, because even I think we've partially talked about this, how it does seem like sometimes some of these games, some of the periods where it looks like they might be taking a nap, or it looks like their confidence might be shot. But if they get going from the get-go, it looks like they're riding a high. It looks like they're on cloud nine and really enjoying themselves.
Yeah, and again, sometimes they start the period strong, but the concern for me is when they don't and they give up. So in the first period, they give a goal up just over 2 minutes in. Then over a minute into the second period, they give up a goal that brings St. Louis within one. And I cringed, but I stayed away from my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't offer any thoughts on Blue Sky. I'm like, I want to, very much like Major League, when Rick Vaughn gives up the home run after walking the bases loaded, I put my best Lou Brown on. I'm like, let's see how they respond. And they responded pretty well. I thought that they came back and they finally did score another goal to make it 4-2. There was no more scoring in the third. But boy, I was a little concerned. I'm like, did they shoot their wad in the first? Is
Yep.
that all they had? And they came out, they gave it a good solid opening 20, because we've seen that, right? We've seen them have a good opening or have a bad opening, but then a good second or then a strong third or whatever. It just, they never seem to be able to put the 60 minutes together. I think this was a very close approximation of them doing their best to put 60 minutes together.
They definitely did their best. And here's the thing. I feel like as much as we always ask for a full 60-minute effort, I just don't think we're gonna see it from this team. We're gonna see as close as we can get.
That's pessimistic, Robin. Isn't it? Or no? Is it? Are we being too harsh, or is that being realistic? What do you think here? Let's dig into that.
No, I feel like I'm being realistic here because here's the thing. It's still a very young team. The best teams out there in the world, they'll get also really close to a full 60-minute effort. Some of the most elite Stanley Cup winning teams, they will have 60-minute games, but not always. Some of those teams will have, 50-minute games. They'll have a tiny little stretch where they don't play their best hockey out there. So to expect the absolute best from the Utah Hockey Club is a tall order. But here's the thing. We still have those high expectations no matter what, right? We still want them to play their best. We still want them to play NHL level hockey. So I feel like that's kind of why we were frustrated for such a long time. They don't play those full 60-minute games because we're like, this is an NHL team, right? We know what they're capable of. We know that they should be playing at least at this level. And I think that's kind of what the point I'm trying to make, Tom.
So really, to me, and let me know. Look, no team plays a perfect 60-minute game, and I appreciate what you're saying because no one does. They're humans playing the game. But it sounds to me like we're asking Utah to minimize inconsistencies, period to period, shift to shift.
Yes.
Reduce the mistakes and stop saying we're going to fix X, Y, and Z and actually maybe do it in a game consistently also.
I think that's what we're looking for the most. We're looking for to address those issues. And when we keep seeing the same issues, I think that's why we're all frustrated, right? We're like, okay, what is it? Is it a confidence thing? Is it a coaching thing? Is it just a skill gap somewhere? What is it?
And the answer can be all of it, or it could be one thing at a time. And it really depends on the moment. Did the coaching staff do everything it needed to do in that moment to teach a player, especially a young player? Did the veterans do everything they needed to do to teach and lead? Is it a repeatable offender who's just not getting the message? How do you get the message across? Is it a benching? Is it a trip to the press box? How, and all players are different. Some need to be coddled. Some need to be whipped. Some need some mix of in between. Some need constant positive reinforcement. Some need to be driven a little bit harder and stepped on. Everybody responds differently. And this is where the coaching comes into play. You as a head coach, today's athlete is different. It's not like it used to be where you used to point at a brick wall, say, go through that wall, and expect that you would get an entire team to at least attack the wall if they didn't make it through. I don't think today's athlete does that. You say, go through that wall. They say, why? Why do I have to go through that wall? And you better have reasons for them to go through the wall. And then you have to explain to them how exactly they're going to accomplish the task of getting through the wall. So it's so much different than it used to be.
Well, of course, and not only that, and it's something that I'm gonna do a little bit of recall of a point that you made back in the summer. We're talking about coaches and the different styles that we get. We're now in an era of hockey players, and part of that is thanks to the way of my generation. Yes, I am I say my generation, Gen Z. As Gen Zers respond to coaching styles, and Gen Z isn't going to respond to like a John Tortorella coaching style, right? And I think but maybe some of these players might. Who knows what it might be? Not to say that that Bear Andre Tourigny can get a little bit tough. I'm pretty sure he can, but his point is development and helping people grow.
Right.
But question is, at what point does he need to get tough?
Yeah, and he should be already on the guys who need it. So, and that again is your head coach / psychologist trying to deal with today's athlete, and that's it. You got to find what motivates them and why. So that's a big part of it. And you know what? I can tell you what motivates one guy. It's when he plays against his hometown team, because a 4-point night for Clayton Keller. But I have a bone to pick with St. Louis Keller, and I want to talk about that. And today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. I mean, look, hey, go Bills. But if you're not a Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, or Commanders fan, you can still keep it interesting with FanDuel. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Really quick, Tom, I want to put this point out there, kind of from that from the little read that you put out there. I got a little reminded, earlier over the weekend, or maybe slightly before, of one of the followers of this podcast, at least on social media. When she was out wearing her Bills gear, and I instantly thought of you, and I'm like, I feel like this person and Tom will get well perfectly.
Me public. A little buffalo, Robin. That's what we call buffalo. It is perfectly acceptable to start and or end any conversation with anyone who's a Bills fan by simply saying, "Go Bills." You don't have to say hello or goodbye. You just say, "Go Bills," and "Go Bills." The response comes back. So
the funny thing enough is there was a similar thing when it came to those that were proud that went to my high school. They just replaced one letter essentially, because we had a different. Our mascot was called the Bells, so we would just say "Go Bells."
I thought you were going to say "Go Hills."
No.
Go
but
Chills.
It's funny because like there was that level of thing where he would just say just "Go Bills." That's random. I'm like, oh, hello.
Yeah. That's hey, whatever works. I honestly would have said Bulls. I thought you were going to tell me your mascot was a bull, but the Bells. Okay. You know what? That's kind of what I'm hoping. Watch this segue. Utah Hockey Club is able to build with the fan base, with everybody coming together. Year one, not having named the team yet, Robin. Can you say "Go Utah"? Well, are you a UU fan, or are you a hockey club fan, or do you just like the state of Utah? So I think once they get the branding and the logos and all that in place, I think we're really going to build that core fan identity.
What,
right
you
now,
mean we're not saying "Go Club"?
No, Go Club, Go HC. So the I'm kind of interested to see how it's all going to fit in. The chants, the cheers, the hashtags, everything's going to be born from this. It's a monumental decision. So I actually am glad they didn't try to just ram it through for year one and figure it out.
Yeah, and then, they'll give them some time to figure it out, and we'll find in due time. We'll probably should find at this point now, since we're in the second half of this first season, sooner rather than later, what the actual team identity is going to be. And I know there's a lot of things that still need to be figured out, but we're approaching that point, which we should probably get to know by now.
All thoughts that go into it. These are all things that we need to consider. So, all right. St. Louis Keller rides again. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the bullet point there. I wanted this one up. 4 points. Clayton Keller on fire against St. Louis. And it's well documented that when he plays the Blues, he goes off. And I love it. But where is that guy the rest of the time?
Mm-hmm. It's funny because we
consistently,
see it more often.
Consistently.
Yeah, you're right. We see it more often. You see him play his better games when he's in St. Louis because he wants to show off in front of maybe his hometown friends and be like, "Hey, look at me! I could play some elite level hockey." But no matter what, it's always against his hometown team in the St. Louis Blues. And yeah, I think the point, the little is a little bit of gripe is like, why isn't he being consistent at this level this season? Especially too, Tom, because Clayton Keller has been known, at least the last couple of seasons, has put up some of the best hockey we've seen, right?
Yes,
he consistently would be one of the best, he still is one of the best players on this team, but a couple years ago, he was on a high, getting most goals that he'd ever had in the career, and he was on fire. Now it's like he's good. He's got good games, but he only plays great against St. Louis.
He was dominant Saturday night. In a way, few players dominate games. So he has the ability. He absolutely has the capability to dominate a hockey game. But I want to see more of it. Mm-hmm. And I'll throw the gauntlet down right at his skates and say, hey, why don't you do this more often? Why can't you be that player? What is it that's stopping you? What is it? Because you clearly are that player when you want to be that player. Now, is it motivation? You just don't care that much? Is it, and look, veteran players know they have to conserve themselves for some games for some time. But let me tell you something. You know who they're going to need that game against? The Winnipeg Jets. St. Louis Keller needs to play the same way he played Saturday night as he does Monday night against the Winnipeg Jets, because that's a team that is the cream of the crop of the Western Conference. They're right up there at the top of the NHL standings overall in the league. They're second only to Washington, as you may be watching this on a Monday. That's as of Sunday night, all the games done. Monday morning, that's where the standings are. Robin, I think that type of player, if he is that player, just give me 70% of the games. Mm-hmm. That gets you in the playoffs, or at least in the playoff hunt. I mean, he literally was the best player on the ice. He was everywhere, was dominant.
I feel like in some way, and it kind of goes back to a little bit of what I just said just a couple minutes ago here, is there's a little bit of a motivation factor when it comes to Keller against the Blues, is he just wants to show off against his hometown team. But here's the thing. If motivation is what gets Clayton Keller to play these level of games, there's got to be some way to motivate him to do that same thing against Winnipeg, against other top end teams. Maybe against Winnipeg, you tell him it's like, hey, but this is another team ahead, another team in front of us that could be, quote, in our way of getting to a playoff spot. Like, we need to prove to people that we are a better hockey team and that we are a good hockey team. Or just himself, that even at this, Tom, prove to everybody else that he deserves to be, because every time we go through the offseason, it's like, oh, top 20 centers in the NHL, and Clayton Keller sometimes gets left off of it. Isn't that wouldn't that bother you? Except you're one of the best. You're the number one C on your team. You don't get named in the top 20 Cs in your in the NHL. I mean, that's got to bother you at some point.
Not in the Four Nations tournament either.
Yeah. So there has to be some level of motivation for him to play that level of talent every night.
I don't know. Maybe somebody needs to promise them like a dinner at Mike Shannon's for every 3-point night or a case of St. Louis Suds. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's missing here, but it's just not there consistently. And the fact that it really looks like he can flip a switch.
Maybe we just blindfold him, but like, wait, the only thing he can see inside the blindfold is the logo of the St. Louis Blues. Like,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, paint a Blues logo inside his visor, and just yeah, we got to figure this one out. I don't know. We need to figure it out for Winnipeg Monday night because that's a big matchup coming up here, and you're probably, as we mentioned, if you're catching this on a Monday, this is the Winnipeg preview, talking about the Jets, the best team in the Western Conference. It wraps up a 7-game homestand on an oddball Monday night for the Utah Hockey Club with a 7:30 start. Robin and I are going to talk about that here in just a sec.
And today's episode is brought to you by Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics, and the Stanley Cup Final. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 million in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer a one-size-fits-all policy, their licensed agents tailor coverage to your unique benefits. So if you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million, no medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million of coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. Once again, that's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. SelectQuote. They shop, you save.
All right, back here to talk a little bit more about this Winnipeg Jets team that comes in. One of the best teams in the NHL, Robin. And as I mentioned, second only actually to Washington. How about that? Washington's leading the whole league. But the Jets, 31-13-3, 65 points. Their .691 win percentage, also second in the league. Their 31 regulation and overtime wins. That is tied for tops in the league. 27 regulation wins. That is tops in the NHL. So what else do they bring to the table? They have a plus 52 goal differential. That is also tops in the NHL. They're 13-8-0 away from home. So they're one of the teams that is much better at home than they are on the road, but they're still a pretty darn good team. 165 goals for. They do a great job putting the puck in the net and keeping it out. 113 goals against is the other thing I wanted to highlight for this team. Connor Hellebuyck is absolutely amazing. The only other team with fewer goals against is the LA Kings, and that's because the Kings have played 4 fewer games. Hellebuyck is crazy, and you want to talk about Four Nations. If he's not the starter for the Four Nations, I'll eat my Bills hat. They do so many things well. Their power play is insane, Robin. And we're going to talk about all this in keys to the game, but they're so balanced. They're so good. I watch Winnipeg play, and I try to think to myself, where are the flaws? And they're hard to find.
Yeah, this team is just so good. And it's funny because, and you were talking this about to me before we went on the air, and you kind of mentioned a couple times when, like during the course of the show over the last few weeks or last few months or whatever, and you're kind of now probably laughing a little bit at some of the other fellow hosts of our network who kind of put the Jets down. They dismissed them and said they weren't going to be that great this season. But oh my God, are they playing well? Just take a look at, they've got right now, I'm taking a look at their stats for this season. You got 2 players with above 25 goals this season, and one just right outside. Kyle O'Connor with 26 goals, Mark Scheifele of 27, and then right behind Gabriel Velarde for 19 goals. Like, oh my God, Tom.
They can put the puck in the net. They're so good, Robin, in almost all facets of the game. The only place they kind of stink is the penalty kill, which is also going to come up in keys to the game. But I mean, Connor Hellebuyck is again, if he doesn't win the Vezina Trophy this season, something's wrong. Barring an absolute meltdown between now and the end of March, he should be a shoo-in for that. He's obviously the anchor on defense. Winnipeg takes care of its own end. They play well defensively, and then they are opportunistic. They take care of turnovers. They're quick in transition. They can score off the rush, but they can also score off of possession. They're just a dangerous team all the way around. And you're right. Nobody gave them any respect. And look, it's on. There's tape. We'll go back and talk about my Winnipeg Jets in the preseason. If you're new to the show, if you're a first timer, by the way, that's a running joke with me this season because everybody dumped on the Jets and I was the only one to stick up for them. Everybody said, no, Jets are not making the playoffs. Like, they're one of the best defensive teams out there. How do you not make the playoffs? So
I mean, you take a look at and you take a look at like just one of their defensemen. And picking out their top one, and you take a comparison to for example, like if you can pick any of Utah's top defensemen, it's like a night and day difference here. Not to really trash on Utah's blue line as I've already have multiple times this season. For again, unfair. But Josh Morrissey with a 5 goals, 35 assists for 40 points, and a plus 11 as a defenseman. Tom, that's really nice.
He's a fantasy stud too because a lot of those are power play points. So I had Morrissey on various teams over the years. I've enjoyed his production. But Robin, if I do want to go to keys to the game here. And I want to talk about a couple of the keys that I've got. And number one is get to the net. Because Robin, if we're not getting to the net and we're not literally physically knocking Connor Hellebuyck off his game, it's going to be real tough to beat this team. So they need to get to the net. Net front presence, be nasty when you get there, be physical. They just have to be there.
I've said it time and time again. It's almost like a broken record at this point. But this Utah team got a lot of power forwards. Use that body, get in front, as you said, get to the nets, do what you can, and also play for the rebound. Try to get those opportunities because, you're not going to get a very, very little amount of times. Are you going to get a first time shot on to Connor Hellebuyck? It's just not going to happen. You need to get as many opportunities you can up on them or else you're not going to have a great day.
They don't ask you how, just how many. So it doesn't matter how they go in. They can all be ugly. You can still win. All right. Key number 2, ground the Jets power play. 32.1% on the power play for the Winnipeg Jets. That is tops in the NHL by almost 4 full percentage points over Detroit and New Jersey. Nobody is better. And they're 1.41 goals to the good 5-on-5. And then you throw in that power play, Robin, and Utah Hockey Club, it is imperative they stay out of the box. Absolutely imperative because Winnipeg is almost scoring on 1 out of every 3 chances. That's crazy, especially in January, to still have the power play operating at that kind of clip. That's nuts.
Yeah, it is insane. And you just got to make sure you just shut that down because if you give Winnipeg an inch, they will take advantage of that as much as they can with the man advantage.
They really will, and they'll drive the bus through any little crack in the door. So, and that's when the games turn into blowouts because then you get frustrated, you go back into the box, they score another power play goal. Now you're chasing the game the whole night. So you don't want to get in that position. And Robin, number 3, make Winnipeg play shorthanded. So you're playing at home here, Utah Hockey Club. You've got the crowd behind you. Get under their skin. Like I say, get in front of Hellebuyck. Make the defenseman come after you. Make them punch you in the face. Make them cross-check you in the back. Get the calls that way. Why? Because, Robin, as good as they are on the power play, their penalty kill is actually not very good. It is 79% on the year, which, believe it or not, is tied with your San Jose Sharks. But it is bottom half, and it's just not a good look, I think, for the Jets, who, out of everything they don't do well, and I mean, we're picking nits here to say they don't do that well, but I mean, they're mid-pack. They're tied for 15th on the PK. So if you can take advantage of any one thing, and Utah's power
It
play
goes,
has been pretty good lately.
yeah, there is that. And it goes a couple different ways too. You talk about Utah's power play playing a little bit better, and you also just any opportunity you can get in the man advantage will help you out. That's one, and two, it just slow down the momentum. Right? We talked about how much being shorthanded is a momentum killer. If you force Winnipeg to be shorthanded, even if they kill off all the penalties, right? Is still going to have a harder time trying to keep up because they're getting tired. They're wasting so much energy at this point trying to just clear it out or doing whatever they can just to make sure that they don't sustain that much pressure in their own zone.
Yep, first ever visit coming up for Winnipeg. And actually, believe it or not, the first road game of 2025. They've been at home the whole time. So they're finally getting on the road. I mean, maybe you catch them, To them, this could be a trap game, looking at it from their perspective. So maybe Utah Hockey Club can do something there. So,
Yeah.
Robin, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to add one more thing too, and this goes also too in the momentum and all the other things too. And this is not necessarily a team thing going to the Utah Hockey Club. This is to all you fans out there. If you were going to the game, I want to hear you. I want to feel you, because the louder you are, the harder it's going to be for the Jets.
All right. So Robin has thrown down the gauntlet to the Delta Center crowd. You heard it right there. The challenge has been tossed. So
I want tonight to be the loudest I've ever heard Delta Center.
Have the hair stand up on the back of your neck. Although I got to tell you, the last couple of games has been pretty good. And against the Blues, it was awesome.
Of course. And let's make it. Let's turn it up even more.
Yes, absolutely. I'm all for that. So, Robin, I was going to ask you if you had any other keys. So, I mean, that was one. Is that anything else you want to bring up?
No, I feel like you hit the nail on the head of the other things I wanted to bring up.
All right. Well, let's talk about the odds. Han Solo says, never tell me the odds. But Robin, I want you to tell me the odds.
Yeah, let's take a look at the odds right here as we pulled it up based off from our little friends at FanDuel at the time of recording. It's probably very different by the time you guys are listening to this because it's always changing. Utah Hockey Club plus 115 on the underdog, minus 138 for Winnipeg. Total points at 5.5.
Well, Robin, I actually got an over-under right recently, so I was very proud of myself for that. Because, man, I've been whiffing on those. I feel 5.5 is low. I really do, because Utah's been finding ways to put pucks in the net. They're coming off a pretty successful game, although, again, Winnipeg really does shut you down and not allow a lot of goals, but they also score a lot of goals. I think these two teams combined get to 6. I think that happens. But especially at home, if Utah was on the road, I might pick the under. But because they're at home, I feel that they could hit the over.
I'm with you. I'm really feeling the over on this game. To me, I'm feeling like it's one of those games that it really could go either way. I will say this, and then again, it's something that we don't show on our graphic because there isn't a spot for it on our traditional graphic, but taking a look at the points too, at least what they call the quote puck line, aka the spread, where it's plus 1.5 at a minus 225 for Utah, or minus 1.5 plus 180 for Winnipeg. Like, there could be some enticing bits there, right? Taking a look at how close is it going to be, a close game, or is Winnipeg going to run away with it? That's kind of what we're looking at. And from what it looks like the betting trends are saying that people think this is going to be a close game.
Well, I mean, I would have a hard time blaming them, honestly. I think I could easily see that. So and again, because Utah's at home, I expect that, really.
Mm-hmm.
I expect them to be competitive. I expect them to be, tough on the Jets. And I expect them in their own building not to get pushed around, not to have to chase things. So we'll see. Although it's been a disappointing homestand. And you know what? That's one of the things I'm looking forward to is us being able to recap this homestand once it's over. After this, they don't play again until Thursday. And then they do back-to-back Minnesota, Winnipeg, Thursday and Friday. So not an easy stretch there either.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an important week. And it's a week against the best teams in your division. 3 games against the best teams in your division. You want a measuring stick? You've got one.
There you go. Exactly. I'll add one more to a little bit of a bonus bet for you, Tom. You name a player, and I will give you their odds for anytime goal scorer.
Well, I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'm going to ride Clayton Keller.
Clayton Keller, anytime goal scorer, plus 200. So very good, very good odds there. It's like it's one among the top 3. It's Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, plus 135, plus 180. Clayton Keller, plus 200.
What about Logan Cooley?
Logan Cooley's plus 260, so not too far behind.
I feel like Logan Cooley's also carrying a hot stick right now. So
here's a little fun one for you, just for giggles. John Marino at plus 1,000.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if Marino's quite convinced me he's ready to pop one in, but you never know. I mean,
you never know.
You never know. Like I said, they don't ask you how, just how many. If it goes
again,
in off somebody's face.
Again, I've liked how he's been playing in his first couple of games. At least his ease in has been satisfactory.
This isn't an ease in anymore, Robin. 24-14 in the last game, by the way. I forgot to bring that up. I wanted to talk about ice time. Marino 24-14 by far, even more than, and of course, we didn't talk about Sergachev. We did not talk about Sergachev. We need to mention that.
Yeah, Sergachev.
Day-to-day right now.
Yeah, listed as day-to-day, so questionable for tonight's game. Doesn't end, does it?
No, it really doesn't. Bortuzzo's out. Gunther's still out. Durzi's still out. And Sergachev questionable. That is the injury report. For the Jets, Mason Appleton out. Hayden Fleury out. And Nemestnikov is questionable with a lower body injury.
With Sergachev day-to-day, now that does bring me the question. How many minutes is Marino now going to play?
24 is pretty much the max I think you're going to see a defenseman play. Or at least I hope. But
I mean, I've seen teams done really dumb things and go up into the upper 20s.
And I guess situationally dependent. So, like, I look at Marino, and Mata's minutes have come down, although Mata was +3 in the game, by the way. But 205 in the power play, whereas Kesselring got, say, 317, just by way of comparison. 438 shorthanded, though. So Marino's out there killing penalties where Kesselring is not. Mm-hmm. Mata's out there killing penalties more than he's on the power play. Same with Valimaki. He's more shorthanded than even strength. But that's kind of what we're looking at there. So Ian Cole, 447 shorthanded, 1903 even strength. So that's where your divide is going to be for these guys. And DeSimone, by the way, no power play, no shorthanded, just 12 minutes, 37 seconds of 5-on-5. So, and the Jets, again, are pretty dominant 5-on-5. Everybody's got to be on top of their game.
It's going to be a fun game to watch.
It will. I'm looking forward to it. So, what do we got? 7:30 start. I know that it vacillates between 7 and 7:30, but 7:30 start on a Monday night against the Winnipeg Jets.
Yep, and I know by the time you guys are listening to this, it's most of you guys are listening to this early on your Monday morning. A couple hours from now, by the time this show is released, we'll know a little bit more about what lineups look like post morning skate. You can follow any of us on social media. Tom will probably be the one to pay attention to maybe a little bit more. I'm not always, as active as I'd like to be. I get busy with my day job. So
Robin has a life. That's what Robin is saying, is that Robin has a life and Tom does not. That's what I'm hearing.
Just interact with us. We'll try to keep you guys updated with maybe any updates, what we know from lines, any other Utah Hockey Club news you guys might want to know ahead of tonight's matchup against the Winnipeg Jets.
Absolutely. So you can find me over on Blue Sky, which is pretty much where I'm active these days, at Tom Talks. That's the best place to catch me. So come on over, join the dark side. We have cookies.
And you can find me at Robin_Leaño on X, at Robin Icetime on Blue Sky. You can follow the show at LO_NHL Utah on X, and at Locked On Utah Hockey on Blue Sky. Also, still for a little bit longer, because apparently the ban only lasted a couple of hours. You can that same at for TikTok. Who knows if it's still how much longer that's going to last, but we'll see.
I have my own personal thoughts on this, but Robin, I will say this: I feel confident it will stay now, for reasons that aren't exactly above board, but I think it's going to stick around.
Yeah, it probably will. It's just funny. The whole saga was absolutely hilarious.
It's all about money.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. All right, well, that's going to be it for this episode. If you guys like what you heard, also just don't forget to leave us a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your shows, including on YouTube, SiriusXM, ad-free on Amazon Music. So just about everywhere. And I mean everywhere. But once again, interact with us, ask us a question. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to this show, and we'll see you guys next time.